Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're doing a quick focused look into cultural evolution models, and specifically their kind of surprising origins. They didn't start where you might think, like in sociology, but actually in theoretical genetics.
That's right. It's a really interesting starting point. A lot of the very first models trying to map out how culture spreads and changes, they basically lifted their core ideas straight from population genetics.
Lifted them. So like they saw genes spreading and thought, hey, maybe ideas spread like that too.
Pretty much. They saw this parallel, you know. Cultural things like traditions or skills get passed on, they change over time, some thrive, some die out. And I thought, that sounds a lot like genetic transmission, mutation, and selection.
Okay, so they took the language transmission, selection, all that, and tried to apply it to, say, learning a craft or adopting a new custom.
Exactly. And it wasn't just descriptive. They wanted to use the math from genetics to build predictive models, to try and figure out, how fast a particular cultural trait might spread or maybe disappear, just like tracking a gene.
Right, that sounds incredibly powerful. But, I mean, culture isn't DNA. So if these models started out borrowing so heavily from genetics, they must have hit some walls, right? Where did that analogy, that useful comparison start to fall apart? Why did they need to rethink it?
Yeah, that's exactly where it gets interesting. They had to modify those approaches because fundamentally, cultural transmission just doesn't play by the same strict rules as genetic inheritance. Passing on information, it's a whole different ballgame than passing on genes.
Okay, let's dig into that. What's the first big difference they ran into? You mentioned inheritance.
Right. The idea of simple parental inheritance, like you get 50% from mom and 50% from dad genetically, that goes out the window pretty fast with culture.
How so? Give us an example.
Okay, well, imagine two parents have different cultural traits. Let's say one speaks French fluently and the other doesn't speak a word. Genetically, the child inherits predispositions, but for culture, the child isn't automatically 50% likely to pick up French from that one parent. It's not guaranteed at all.
Ah, okay. So the child might learn French, might not, or might learn it from someone else entirely. It's not that clean 50-50 split.
Exactly, which leads straight into the second, maybe even bigger difference, where culture actually comes from. It's a much wider net than just parents.
Wider how? You mean like grandparents, aunts, uncles?
Well, yes, but even broader. Think about non-parental adults, teachers, coaches, mentors, and maybe most importantly, peers. Friends, classmates, colleagues. A child, or even an adult, picks up cultural traits from all these different sources, not just their biological parents.
Okay, that sounds messy. For the modelers, I mean. If you suddenly have to account for teachers, friends, the whole neighborhood, what does that do to the math?
It complicates things significantly. You can't just look at the parents anymore to predict if someone will adopt a certain belief or practice. Suddenly, the frequency of that trait in the wider population becomes really important.
The frequency, so like how common it is generally.
Yeah. If almost everyone around you uses a certain slang term or follows a particular fashion or holds a specific belief, you're much more likely to pick it up too, even if your parents don't share that trait at all. The model has to look beyond the family unit to the sort of cultural environment.
So the initial genetic framework was useful. It gave them a starting language, things like selection, transmission, but it wasn't enough. Culture needed a model that recognized influence comes from, well, potentially everywhere, peers, society at large.
Yeah.
It's more about social networks than bloodlines.
Precisely. It shifted the focus. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a kind of interesting thought to consider.
Yeah.
Well, if we acquire so much knowledge, so many practices, beliefs from peers, from media, from non-family adults, just because those things are common or popular around us, how much of what you personally believe or do wasn't passed down directly in your family, but was absorbed more from the cultural air you breathe? Something to think about.